Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another new episode, a new video of about skateboarding. Now, if you're brand new here, my name is Sean, and I do videos here on the channel on YouTube and over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just about the whole world of skateboarding, and I kind of share my thoughts, my opinions, my feelings, give stories, and just kind of just discuss the whole world of skateboarding. Now, it's some really quick reminders before we get into the video for today. Again, like I said before, if you do end up liking this video or any of these videos and the content, then definitely subscribe for more, as well as give a like to all the videos, just so I know you like it. And as well, if you want to hear the audio versions in full, you can do so over on Apple Podcasts and over on Spotify in the full versions as well for the audio only. Another quick reminder too is that if you want to support the channel and myself a little bit more, there is some merchandise that I designed personally over on the About Skateboarding store shop as well. And again, I'll put all those descriptions or all that stuff in the description below, as well as on the podcast as well if you're listening to it as well. And again, I designed all the merch, so again, if you want to support me in the channel at all, a little bit more than watching and listening, I've had some people reach out, and I've been very appreciative of you guys, as well as everyone just for watching and listening as well. But yeah, let's get into it. So today I wanted to make more of a generalized video about just really the pros and cons, and there's kind of the whole overall world of skateboarding. And the fun part about it is that there is, both sides of everything I've kind of wrote down as far as ideas. And I would love it for you guys to all chime in and give me, and share your, agreements or disagreements, whatever it might be, in the comments below, as well as just writing in about it too. I'd love to read those and just see what you guys think, because you guys have more, because my list is more of a general list. So if you have more deep dive stuff, then let me know about that in the comments below too. So let's go ahead and get into that. So again, this is just a general pros and cons list of the whole thing. I just think it'd be more fun to make a general, kind of just like again, between both of them. So, and some of the pros I wrote down or I thought of was that, so pro for skateboarding would be that it is relatively cheap and not super expensive. Now, what I mean by that is that compared to most, I guess, team sports and even some individual, hobbies and activities, it is on the cheaper side, relatively speaking. Whenever whether you're talking about getting like a board from, Target or Walmart, or even getting a professional board for, $100, $150, it's still pretty cheap overall. That's one of the best things about it, is that it's not super expensive for an entry level kind of way to get into it overall. Whether you get bad quality, good quality, doesn't really matter. Compared to other things like hockey or basketball or whatever, like things like that, where you have to get like usually a bunch of other stuff if you're doing those sports, like gym bags and socks and shoes and a ball to practice with, or hockey where it's pads and all that crazy stuff. Now, skateboarding does have variations of those two depending on your skill level and experience level and what you want to buy and invest into it, so it can add up. But relatively overall, for like a seasonal sport kind of thing, I think it's still on the cheap side. Now, on the con side of that, in my opinion, too, is that I've had times myself, when I was younger, where I would go to a store, buy a brand new deck, and then I'd get it gripped up, 50 to 60 bucks usually for that part, and then I put on my trucks for it, and then go and work on a trick whether it's at a park or street skating. And I've had it happen before where I do that, and then within 30 minutes I snap a board, because they are wood, no matter how like you want to break the board in, quote unquote, to make it kind of warm up to be abused a little bit. They're still just made out of wood, and they can still break. If you put enough pressure and enough heavy, usage on it quickly, they can still break really easily. And that's the downside of the whole thing, is that there's no guarantee really at all to that aspect of the whole equipment cost, is that you can still, again, break equipment pretty quick. And the same goes for shoes too, because I feel like shoes, especially a lot of skaters go through shoes a lot quicker, because a lot of them, some skaters will do a lot more techie, street skating, as far as like flip tricks and going crazy on rails, and so they really, use the grips on their shoes a lot more than other skaters do, like whether it's on ramps or whatever else. So they may have to go through a lot more shoes and buy those shoes a lot more frequently. So that's one of the, again, it's a very, very flip-flop kind of pro-con thing for affordability, because it depends on how hard of a skater you are, as far as like how hard you are on your equipment, which I guess can also be translated to any other sport too. But for the most part, most other sports, they cost more money, I feel like up front, and then they usually last a little bit longer. I feel like skateboarding stuff is one of those weird ones where it all depends on how heavy you are on the equipment overall for how much you need more replacement stuff for it. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to kind of touch on. Again, the overall cost of skateboarding is usually pretty low overall. Now, the second pro I thought of, which is going to be that you can do it by yourself. And what I mean by this is that doing it by yourself is that's one of the, for me at least, one of my personal favorites of when I was a kid, that got me into the whole thing in the first place, is that I didn't have to rely on anyone else or scheduling. There's whatever might be any money from them or any kind of organizational stuff. That when I got aboard, I was just stoked on the fact that I could just go out and do it myself. I didn't need anyone else. Now, on the con side of that too, I'm not talking about like skateboarding teams or sponsored teams, nothing like that. I just mean like the individual level of skateboarding on your own and going to do on your own. Now, again, there's a whole community behind it too in some aspects that I don't want to, that is another thing by itself. But the overall essence of what skateboarding is, if you talk to most skaters, I feel like on the reason why they got into it, besides like being inspired by professional skaters or video games or whatever, gateway they got into it from for the reasoning, a big reason usually is because it's something you can do by yourself, learn by yourself, and just do it on your own. And I think that that's a really powerful motivational tool by itself because it can really it's a very self inspiring activity, whether that's good or for the bad, because it can be bad too, and that's also the con side of it too. But on the pro side of doing it by yourself is that again you don't need anyone else for that matter. You don't need a coach. You don't need anyone else with you at all just to improve your skills. And generally, it's like you only get better on it for the most part, unless you take breaks or get injured, whatever it might be. Then there's like rehab and rebuilding process. But I think that's one of the best things about it is that you don't need it. You don't need anyone else to do it. And again, it's a really relatively easy thing to get into as far as like you don't need to go to any special facility necessarily to get going and to see if you enjoy it. And that's cool. That's rad. Now, again, on the opposite side, for the con side of doing it by yourself, is that it is harder in some cases, or I should say, on the mental side for your mental health in a way, that there's going to be some very or can be some very tough days for just the days where it doesn't go well. I'll put it that way. And I've made videos about this before about the mental anguish of skateboarding is what I called it at the time. But basically, there's going to be days no matter what where you cannot skate, you can't stand on a board for the most part, you can't balance, you can't whatever, like and it even includes annoyingly the tricks where you've done them for years in some cases, or the tricks that you've mastered over years and you can normally do them without even breaking a sweat. You can just step on a board and flip it or grind it, whatever it might be, and then stick it, no problem. But the hard thing about doing it by yourself, or just that aspect of it in some cases, is that there's going to be those days where where nothing goes well for you, and it's about how you handle that mental aspect of the whole sport, of how to get through it. Because a lot of team sports or other sports with more than just yourself in there with involvement, typically there's a coach there that's got usually years of experience, or they've done it for decades, where they can kind of talk you through it about maybe what you're doing wrong in some cases, or what they think that can be improved on. And that is still an essence of skateboarding overall for the community side of it, because if you go to a skate park or if you make some friends with it, which is pretty easy to do in it for the most part, and then people can see you doing tricks, maybe not doing them wrong, but they want to help you learn them more. But this is really just about those days where nothing is going your way, you can't land a trick that you've already known how to do for years, and it's just not going very well for you. And so that's one of the hard parts about skateboarding, is when you have those days, whether you just call it, because sometimes I would just call it, on myself and just be like, whatever, I just can't skate today, and move on, or go work on other things. And some skaters are very much the opposite of that, where they will literally grind the crap out of it every day on those days where they just can't make anything. So they will just keep pushing, almost to like an injury standpoint, which, everyone's different on how they see or perceive that aspect of it. But for me, when I was younger and I was trying to learn how to skate more, if I couldn't land things, or if I couldn't do, essential tricks, or just stick them at all, and it just got on my nerves, and I'd just be at the point of getting aggressively angry about it, and that's where you want to take it easy. And I notice this happens a lot too when it comes down to like financial stuff, when it comes to like making skate videos too. Like if you watch a lot of skateboarding videos, professional level stuff, where they will sometimes or more commonly have they'll have B-roll before the actual part, or after the part actually happens, all the landed tricks, that they'll sometimes show what the skater went through to land the trick itself, or just some of their B-roll footage of just them getting really upset, really angry, chucking boards, being annoyed, being frustrated, which is going to happen no matter what. It is what it is. And that's the hard part about skateboarding, is that when you have those days, when you have those moments, about how to get through it and persevere, and maybe even turn that into a positive thing for the day, and then get through it and still skate better or skate more efficiently too. Now, another thing I want to say as a pro, and I'm kind of just throwing the cons on top of these two as well to mix them in, is that to kind of associate with that too, is that the skateboarding community is definitely a pro. And I kind of went through it before already a little bit, but basically there's not much better about the skateboarding community than itself, because when you're in it, and this is going to be whether you're skating with just a few friends or at a skate park with people you don't know, or just overall even like contests, things like that. The cool thing about skateboarding, and one of the biggest benefits about it to me, is how even if there's a competition, like a little competition happening, it really is a build-up sport, as I would call it, where it's like, or like a reinforcement sport, where no matter what's happening, everyone that's there is all there for the greater good. They're all there to be positive and just enjoy being together and watching everyone hopefully throw down and skate really, really, really well. And to me, that doesn't happen anywhere else. And as I was thinking about this video and how to and what ideas to bring into it as far as pros and cons, I was thinking about other sports like hockey or any sport, like basketball, baseball, football, whatever it might be, and those sports have coaches that are there to help you, to help like kind of reinforce what you did wrong or kind of work on things and how to improve it. But really, I don't see any other sport compared to skateboarding in this essence, where no matter what, it's all fun for the most part. Hopefully, fun, like a fun activity, because. And this is where I get into the whole issue of the whole financial part of it, the whole financial aspect of it, of being, a con, because I feel like when it comes down to the whole money thing of getting paid to do these things, whether compared to like NFL and skateboarding, is that those are very different, because of the fact that people or like athletes are getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in many cases to do a very simple thing. And so it's weird to me, or it's always been a strange thing to me, especially as a kid, to comprehend when they would, where someone's job to get paid 10 million a year, whatever it might be, was to catch a ball. That's it. And that was one of the reasons why I always disliked every sport on that pro sports level when I was a kid, because I didn't understand how that was an okay thing to do, whereas skateboarding has always been, so for the most part, looked down upon from an outside perspective, as far as like people thinking like, why would you do this? You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna hurt other people. You're gonna, you're damaging property, but all that usual annoying stuff that we all hear as skateboarders that we all just don't want to hear anymore, and just being in the way essentially of other people. And I just think that when people see from the outside perspective looking in, they don't always see the positive mental help that goes on, where it's like, just because again, I mean, you're still, because the struggle can still be, like I said before, on the individual side of you like dealing with your own war, quote unquote, for how to get through the day or how to get through a trick and landing it, because football and all the other sports are really more a much more consistently easy sports to do, because once you have the talent there, or I should say building the talent, once you get to that point, it is expected at that pay level and experience level to be good all the time, for the most part. And with skateboarding, there's not going to be days like that. There may be days in skateboarding where you're just not doing it, not good. And I think that skateboarding has the biggest, slope of experience of frustration, because there's just days where it's like every single, like not only is it like uncontrolled environments, like with weather and skate parks being, not the greatest quality or whatever, whereas on like other sports it's very professional all the time, like things are very pristine, and there's teams of people that take care of stuff, and skateboarding is not like that at all. It's very, very different. And that's just one of those, it's a very interesting kind of, back and forth topic to kind of go through, I feel like, for that part too. Now, some of the other stuff I wanted to go through on that I thought as a pro is that I think one of the best pro things about skateboarding is that it's worth traveling for. And what do you mean by this is that a lot of skateboarders will, if they're at that experience level, for the most part, they will relocate themselves to different cities or travel with teams that they're sponsored for and see other places and see new things and get cultured. And that is one of the best things about the skateboarding in general, is that the culture and the international level of it is one of the raddest things about skateboarding. And to even evolve it more further out for conversation, I would say that the funny thing to me about sports professionally is that, like things like football, I think it's so funny and so hilarious that they call and I've always thought this, but that they call the Super Bowl a world championship, because the NFL is only in the U.S. I know they play international games now and all that, whatever, but the idea that it's called an or like a world championship, to me is the funniest hypocritical thing ever done for a sport like that, because nothing about football, for American football, I mean, is worldwide. people may watch it internationally, but they're not recruiting people from outside the U.S. at all. It's all U.S., like U.S. colleges, like even like all the draft, all that. It's all U.S. So I think that it's a very hypocritical term to call the Super Bowl a world championship, because it's not. Other sports are different, but I feel like that's one of the funny things. But with skateboarding, like a big pro is that you can travel for it and go to other places, like all the biggest skate spots, or some of them at least, like besides like Southern California, or for the most part Southern California, are everywhere around the world. Like I know people who like some of the best like spots are in Spain or in Europe somewhere, and or anywhere in the world. Like there's always good spots. And to me, that's one of the coolest things about skateboarding, is that it is a true worldwide phenomenon of good spots, and people like having more respect for it. I feel like internationally, especially, and I think there's not much better than that, because not only that part of it, but because of how international the audience is for skateboarding, and how most teams for skateboarding teams and most sponsored skaters, like they're from everywhere. Like if you look at like, especially like if you look at the SLS Street League, like I think like over 80% of each contest is all international skaters. They're all from different places, and that's super super rad. I love that. It's a very very diverse crowd for one thing, and definitely like a diverse skateboarding crew. And that's what's one of the coolest things about skateboarding, is that it's such a diverse thing, and and it's a universal language of how talent can be found for skateboarding too. So I think that's definitely a pro, and that's cool, because it gives you, if you're getting into it, it gives you a bigger scope of the world for sure. And I love that. There's nothing that I can say about that negatively at all. It's super rad for that. Now, this one is a basic one for a pro, but I think it's still worth mentioning, because I think that it's almost kind of funny, like a sarcastic one, but it's really true. But skateboarding is a method of transportation, and all I mean by this is, as simple as it is that when I was growing up, skateboarding, I didn't before I could get a license for driving, I skated everywhere. So I think skateboarding is cool because it does get you around town. If you're trying to get anywhere, you can just skateboard there, and it'll get you there. Just simple as that. Now the next thing I'm gonna do as a pro is that, and this is again goes both ways, is that this is gonna be for getting sponsored, and then also trying to get sponsored. They're very different things, because a big reason why a lot of skaters want to get into skateboarding is to obviously make money from it and turn it into an income, and be sustainable, and be able to skate every day, all day with friends, and that's it. And I feel like these days, especially in 2025 now, or at the end of 2025 almost, is that I think that sponsorship and skateboarding, not only is it very, very difficult because of how freaking high the talent and experience standards are these days, but not only that, but it's kind of like the whole music industry, where it's like when before streaming existed, or before like the internet existed, that like you had to go through certain avenues of how to get signed to a label, and then once you got on one, it was easier, like you just toured forever. But now it's like almost hard, because there's no filter for any kind of talents and things like that for music. So it's kind of the same way I feel like with skateboarding, where it's like back in the day when there wasn't the internet, there wasn't an easy way to publish a video to get thousands of views instantly. It was a much more simplified thing, where you had to like make a video and then put it in most cases put it into your local skate shop, which I've said in other videos too about sponsorship, and then you go and start from that point, getting sponsored locally, and then hopefully expanding up to a bigger company. And nowadays it's way different, because you can obviously make your own video with your phone, and then still somewhat go through the same kind of areas of like local skate shops or contests, and get sponsored that way. But the hard part about that now is that, because anyone can do that, the level of sponsorship is a lot harder than it ever used to be. And I was talking about this to a skater friend of mine just a few days ago, after the previous video I made about getting sponsored, and just between the two of like locally versus nationally, and internationally too, is that these days it's become a thing where you have to have even almost a social media following to get sponsored. Now, I don't agree with that in any way, but it is sadly part of the truth as far as like how just skateboarding works nowadays, where it's a lot of companies, especially for skateboarding, where they still sponsor riders for product and things like that. Like you have to have somewhat of a social media following before you even considered, and that's not even including your skateboarding experience or skateboarding talent level, like which already has to be higher than it ever has been before, at a younger level too. Because a lot of skateboarding companies nowadays, I feel like, are recruiting so young that they almost kind of like it's almost like sports in a way, like with the professional sports, where it's like if you're over 25, you're already considered like retirement age for sports. And I feel like that's almost sort of in a way the same essence as skateboarding has become for sponsorship, because I feel like back in the day, it's like it was a lot more streamlined in a way to get sponsored, and nowadays it's because everyone can do whatever they want for the most part with content from providing their own skate videos, that it's like it's so easy to make it that again it's harder to get looked at and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like nowadays, especially for skateboarding, especially the connections are even more important. And what I mean by that is that you've got to know someone professionally, or at least a very good amateur who's maybe already on a team or whatever, and then you have to give them your information and skate around them and be around them and show them the commitment and the passion, all those all those already obvious things, but it has to be even elevated more nowadays. So all those things are really important, but it's even on a huge or much bigger scale now because of how easy it is to make content on. And again, that's both a pro and a con for me, because it's like it's still possible, and it's still you can still make money doing it and make a living, but the level is so much higher than it ever used to be as well, for that, for sure. Now, another pro I want to bring up to really quickly lastly is that I'll kind of end out the video here a little bit, but is that I think that skate parks in general, and also indoor skate parks, especially for me in my area. So I live in Minnesota, so like we have winter roughly 8 months of the year for the most part. So it's harder to skate outside in general when you're in an area of the world, especially where there's winter for half the year. So the best thing about skateboarding, or one of them, is definitely having indoor skate parks or places where you can go. You may have to pay to get in, but you can still just go in and keep working on your skills, working on your craft. And I think that, and why I bring up as a pro and a con is because for me, a skateboarding, or a skate park, I should say, was one of the most, you know, not only inspiration, but one of the most minimal things I needed, because I couldn't always go out and street skate. I couldn't always go into the streets and work on my stuff, because like it just wasn't always that easy. But at least you have the confidence of knowing that there's a skate park near you in most cases, and you can go there and just know that you're in a safe place, and it's not so, like, I don't say hostile, but it's not so difficult to learn new things when you're in a comfort level, essentially, so to speak. So, but the downside of skate parks too is that you also have the other side of it, where they can be very busy. They can charge money, obviously. They can very much be overcrowded, and that, as cool as it is to have a community aspect of it on that side of things, it can also be somewhat detrimental too when it's like so busy on those like weekend days and holidays, where it's like you can't even get any skating done, or you can't like have like a really solid session where you feel like you're on your own world and you're kind of trying to elevate yourself and do it in the moment. So that's also the negative side of it, but it all depends on how you perceive it too. So I'll end it there, because we're already a little over 20 minutes in the video, but I just wanted to make a solid list of both pros and cons, because most of these again have both sides of it. I wanted to really dive into those as well, just a little bit here and there. So hopefully you enjoyed the list. Again, I would love to know what you guys think about both or all my pros and cons list, and as well as suggesting your own on just every aspect. There's more I have for this as well as the listing goes. I made a huge list of it, so I'll make another video down the road at some point about this. Just that I think it's important stuff too. But again, as always, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. And again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed, subscribe. And again, as well, if you want to support me a little bit more, again, there's some merch over at aboutskateboarding.store, so go support me there if you'd like to. Otherwise, thanks for watching again, and thanks for listening. I'll see you guys all in the next video.